It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, September 24th. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by Wyoming Interventional and Vascular Associates. WEVA offers the best solution for treating tired, aching, and swollen legs at Wyoming's only IAC-accredited vein facility. With virtually no downtime and minimal risks, if you're ready for relief, see what WEVA can do for you. Schedule a consultation at caspermedicalimaging.net/WEVA. The mother of the Byron woman who fatally shot her 4 daughters and herself in February filed a wrongful death lawsuit Monday in Wyoming's federal court. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Rhonda Copeland, mother of Tranielle Harshman, filed a civil lawsuit against Cody-based Sage Psychiatry Services, LLC, and against advanced practice registered nurse Krista Blau on claims that Blau sent Harshman home with ketamine.
Ketamine is a dissociative drug that can carry risks of hallucinations and other issues. The lawsuit alleges that the standard of care is to do this in a medically controlled environment, to take this drug and work through your issues while someone is supervising you or you're someplace safe. But of course, Tranielle Harshman reportedly was taking the drug at home and then shot her 4 daughters and herself. The toxicology report did find it in her system following her autopsy. And according to her mother's lawsuit, she believes that this was not the safe or best way to prescribe and to send her with it. And she believes that it's a cause of Tranielle's death and the little girl's deaths.
Harshman, who was 32 years old at the time, shot her 4 young daughters, called 911, then turned the gun on herself on February 10th in her home in Byron. Concerns about a cross-dressing custodian at Crest Hill Elementary School in Casper came to a head Monday during a meeting of the Natrona County School Board District 1 Board of Trustees. Cowboy State Daily's Dale Killingbeck reports that there were calls for resignations, a state legislator was escorted from the microphone, and an apology was issued as well.
There was an apology by the board member, but the board chair also called out the state representative who initially spoke to the board 2 weeks ago. And the board chair basically said that the state rep did not reflect the situation correctly. The state rep tried to correct that, and police showed up at the table where she sat trying to correct the board chair, and she was escorted away from the table.
Even after Vice Chair Dana Howie apologized and explained her social media post related to an elementary school parent's concerns about the custodian, Board Chair Kevin Christopherson complained about internet and media misinformation and urged people to avoid them and get recentered. Natrona County Schools still contend that the custodian isn't breaking any laws. Yellowstone National Park is Wyoming's top tourist destination, but it's also a mostly pristine habitat for wild animals. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that means visitors will often see nature play out in all of its glory and tragedy. Such was the case earlier this month when several grizzlies battled each other over an elk carcass until one bear used its brute strength to drag it out of a mud hole in Yellowstone in clear view of visitors.
It's just one of those incidents that so awesomely reminds everybody that Yellowstone National Park, it's a tourist trap in its own way, but it's also a natural environment. It's where bad things happen for no real reason. In this case, a elk got stuck in a muddy pond, couldn't get itself out. It could have been there for days, suffering a slow, agonizing death. The National Park Service made the decision to intervene by euthanizing the elk, and then a bunch of bears saw it as an opportunity, and they became a combative carcass for them. So they were fighting over that as they're trying to get nutrients for the winter.
The scene unfolded at a spot called No Moose Pond in the eastern half of Yellowstone. Park rangers say that there's no way to save an elk in that situation because it would be dangerous for the people and the animal. Well, now that the debate over whether to pass more stringent restrictions on noisy vehicles in Cheyenne is finished, the focus shifts to how to enforce the city's controversial new ordinance. Cowboy State Daily's Jackson Walker reports that residents aired their opinions before the Cheyenne City Council on the new ordinance, which passed Monday. How exactly can the police department enforce an excessive sound law?
The ordinance is intended to curb loud vehicles that tear through town at late hours of the night, such as crotch rockets, lights or maybe very large trucks. Presumably, police are going to be using some sort of technology to measure the decibels, although this wasn't included in the ordinance. It will probably be left up to the Cheyenne Police Department, although there was some talk of sound-equipped cameras that could come into use in the future.
Residents argued the ordinance could drive away young residents and could negatively impact car and motorcycle enthusiasts who modify the sound of their engines. I'll be back with more news right after this.
You never know what's going to happen. Without insurance, we could lose everything that we have.
First State Insurance is here to help protect you and your livelihood.
We protect the most important things in your life.
What I appreciate about First State Insurance is for someone to have my back when we have a claim.
First State Insurance looks forward to growing in our surrounding communities.
Well, once the headquarters of the Wyoming Tie and Timber Company, the Triangle Sea Ranch near DuBois has been a dude ranch for the last 93 years. The property, which is entirely within the Shoshone National Forest, is now on the market listing for $4.95 million. And Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to own this slice of Wyoming history.
This is just the latest in kind of a wave of legacy ranches that have come up for sale in Wyoming. There's the Wind River, the Upper Wind Rivers, right out basically your back door. You can go fish for cutthroat trout, brown trout. It's been operated by a pretty famous horseman from Australia, Christopher Cox, and given it really a name for horseback riding. But it's not just suitable for horseback riding. It's really suitable as a base camp of adventure in the DuBois area.
While there's no deeded land in the offering, the property includes all the buildings and equipment, as well as the Forest Service leases, making it a turnkey dude ranch opportunity for the right buyer. Fans of one of Yellowstone National Park's most popular wolves are mourning her death. The young female, 1479F, was reportedly shot legally by a hunter this month after straying out of the park and into Montana. But the incident has caused controversy. Cowboy State Daily's outdoors reporter, Mark Hines, says that there's a case to be made for both sides.
I think a substantive argument to be made about questioning hunting wolves right on just past the park boundary, because these folks are saying these wolves are they're so used to being around people and people not being a threat. How fair is that? But on the other side, there's also a good substantive argument that, the state's management policies are the state management policies. You can't expect the states to adhere to federal policies. How is that fair?
Wolf 1479F was about 2.5 years old and was reportedly killed by a hunter last week. Requests for confirmation and details of the wolf's death from Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks and the National Park Service were not answered by publication time. During a meeting of the House Judiciary Committee last Wednesday, U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman discussed with FBI Director Kash Patel recent efforts to make reservations, such as the Wind River Indian Reservation in Wyoming, a priority in the federal fight on drugs and crime. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the FBI director said drug cartels are dropping their products from the air onto tribal reservations across the nation, and it's time for federal authorities to launch counter-drone operations.
Kash Patel testified before a House committee last week, and they mostly grilled him about the Epstein client list. But Representative Harriet Hageman asked him about law enforcement on tribal reservations. Wyoming, of course, has the Wind River, a sizable tribal reservation that's had some reported drug trafficking. In a judiciary subcommittee, experts testified that cartels have thousands of drones and they'll attack their foes with them. I think the counter-drone activity that Kash Patel is asking for funding and support for is going to be more like a detection, a disabling, sort of airborne tech wars.
Hageman pointed to the recent marshaling of around 100 agents to the Wind River Indian Reservation under interim U.S. Attorney for Wyoming, Darren Smith, President Donald Trump's nominee for the seat. And now Cowboy State Daily's Mac Watson has our final story.
2.5 weeks after the University of Wyoming's marching band had its big moment at Empower Field at Mile High canceled by lightning, the Denver Broncos are extending a new invitation to the band's seniors. It won't, however, involve performing. Cowboy State Daily's Justin George reports that on Tuesday, the Broncos invited the seniors from the UW Western Thunder Marching Band to attend the October 19th game against the New York Football Giants as their special guests.
It turned out Broncos have all their halftimes booked already, as you would expect, many NFL teams too. So that was not a possibility. The Broncos sent the band director a email that said, one, we are going to invite you back to perform next season. We just don't have any spots now. But then for the graduating seniors, they're not going to be able to do it. So what the Broncos did is they invited all the seniors in the band to the Giants game on October 19th, gave them tickets, and will provide transportation. So they'll get a free, all expenses paid trip and ticket to the Broncos game.
Joseph Carver, director of the Western Thunder Marching Band, said the Broncos have gone out of their way to make students feel special. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast each and every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel, or you can listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mac Watson for Cowboy State Daily.